Hello, everybody. It's Friday night, and it is time for the Weekender once again. And on this week's show, Shay announces his deep, abiding love for Star Wars. Ben gets ditzy for dinosaurs, and I am also here. On top of that, we have a prize of a £50 voucher for Wayland Games Store. And if you want to be in with a chance to win, then pop a comment below this video over at OnTableTop.com. You may need to register to put a comment in, but it's free, so it won't do you any harm. Now sit back, relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined this way by Shay.
Hello.
And Ben.
Hello.
And Jerry. Hello. Oh, it's been a fun-filled week. We're getting ready for another one. Lots of stuff ahead. Tons of stuff. If you want interviews, even if you don't, you're getting them. There's a bucket load of them coming at you next week. Like a slop bucket being emptied out of a top window of a bar at closing time. They're just going to be splashing down all over you. You're going to get a ton of interviews.
Whether you like it or not.
So normally we tell you about them when they've gone out. I'm giving you the heads up because there's some interesting ones coming. Gav Thorpe and Andrew Chambers Esquire, who I believe some people may or may not know. They're games writers. They're going to be having a wee chat with me. Which I kept to a tightly scripted 20 minutes. Nowhere near that. About Xeogenesis. I'll be talking to a Dane. And as we learned from South Pacific, there's nothing like a Dane, nothing in the world. That's what they say. About Lunar Wars, which we'll be looking at later on in the show. Charlie is being roused from his cage at Wargames Atlantic. Hudson has let him loose to give us a bit of a chat about what's going on there. And at the end of that chat, we decided doing that once a year really isn't sufficient because we can't get everything in. So probably do a more regular update with Charlie because Wargames Atlantic are going absolutely ham for the horizon. And we'll be talking to some people from UKG as well for those who are interested in getting involved with miniature wargaming at the expo. Because there's a ton of fun to be had there. And only, I'm not looking at my watch.
Don't look at your watch. There's plenty of time.
Plenty of time, loads of time, so much time. So yes, if you're after some stimulating bedtime listening to get you to sleep, then there'll be me.
That's the way to get the
people. Yes,
exactly.
So I'm pushing hard for the ASMR channel. That's what I'm pushing for. On tabletop sleeps. It's the way to do it. But anyway, enough of that. Time to press on with the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, then we're going to be kicking things off in a galaxy far, far away. And there's some news about Star Wars Crisis Protocol, Shay.
Yeah, indeed. Star Wars Crisis Protocol is getting some new minis, which is very nice. A couple of rework sets coming for Star Wars Legion. We have some lovely, of course, the main character in all of Star Wars. We all know it.
You can't call him Baby Yoda.
I can. I just
decreed by the Lords of Star Wars. He can't be called Baby Yoda, apparently. So.
Sure.
But he is Baby Yoda. Look at him. He's Yoda, but baby.
Are they going to stop me?
But yeah, these guys are the Outlaws, I believe. And they are Din. I'm not a Star Wars guy. This is
Din
such
Djarin?
a terrible thing. Din Djarin and Boba Fett. I know that one.
Bubbly Feet.
Bubbly Feet, that's the one, yeah. I know him. He's one of the
Bubbly Feet and mine's a gin.
Yes, exactly. But they look lovely. I actually really like. What is Boba Fett holding?
He's holding a Gallifrey or a Gaffy stick. The Tusken Raiders.
The Sand people.
Right. Yeah. Usually I'm so used to seeing him just like shoot people.
Yeah,
That's
well, if you'd seen the Baby Yoda show,
yes,
which is, I mean, inferior to the Bill and Skull show, but you can't have everything. you get a backstory of how Bubbly Feet's escaped the Sarlacc pit, what he's been doing with his life, which apparently has been living with some Tuscan raiders, like a Hills tribesman for years, until he decides to go and recover his armor. What is not shown here, unfortunately, is just how much weight he's put on, because he's rather svelte in that miniature form, whereas in the Baby Yoda show, he's a chunky monkey squeezing in there. And I've put on a fair amount of punch. I have no problem with them showing an accurate version of the character / actor. He's not the same 20-year-old clone or whatever it was we've seen in, well, I suppose it would have been in his 20s in Empire. He's not that thin young man. He's crawled his way out of a Sarlacc pit and then put a space lizard up his nose and went off and got a stick. And he's put on a few pounds. He's had good living with the Tuscan Raiders.
He's a daimyo now. So
so
that's it,
well, he is the absolute worst crime lord on Tatooine.
He really was.
He was terrible. He was so bad. Pictured here, Baby Yoda eating children again.
Yeah, can't stop
eating
him.
his own
Can't
kind.
stop him.
Wow, cannibal. But yeah, these are the alternative heads for a boba for Bubbly Feet. I'm just gonna call it Bubbly Feet. It's so much easier that way. And Baby Yoda, because that will annoy people. But we also have the assassins, which I really like. I love the droid assassins. They look so cool. Being able to move all their arms and stuff independently, they look amazing. I love them.
Spin around, firing their guns.
Exactly,
Cool.
exactly. But yeah, we've got two of these guys. We've got the IG-11 and the IG-88 assassin droids, which look very nice, I must say.
Yeah.
And I mean, if push comes to shove, you can always run them as IG-15s.
Yeah.
There's not a huge amount of difference in the IG series,
really?
it has to be said.
Yeah. Still no disintegrations, though. Always no disintegrations.
Well, you say that.
Not a very diverse group.
It depends where they are and what they're up to.
That's true.
Presumably these have got an upgraded card in some respect.
Yeah, so they've been newly
edition.
packaged because they can slot into the newest edition, for want of a better word, of Legion.
I will.
And you can use them as for both the Empire or the Rebellion, depending on what you want to do. So they have no qualms anymore.
Okay. They're well, I suppose they must be triplicate faction because they would go into the Scum and Villainy as well.
Yes, obviously.
So just as mercenaries, they can now be fielded by any. Essentially, it's we want people to buy more of these. Yeah. Why are we restricting them to one faction?
Yeah.
Everybody can have everybody can have Baby Yoda. And then because you do the magic hand thingy.
Yeah. And because you've got the different sort of title for Boba Fett there as well, with the daimyo keyword in there. That's what kind of gives him a little bit more of that kind of anti-hero vibe. Whereas obviously with the previous version of him in his classic outfit, that was very much I only served the Galactic Empire. Yeah. So
they're funky stuff. I never got around to getting them first time round for Legion, mostly because anytime you ever attempted to get anything for Legion, it was out of stock.
Yes,
because they didn't want you to play it.
Yeah.
They only want a very specific amount of people to play it. 27 people in Texas and about 15 people somewhere around Colorado. They're the only ones who are allowed to play this game, apparently. And if you're outside of that narrow window, you could jog on, I think was the phrase. So hopefully with these being repackaged, they'll actually be available outside of America in some fashion.
Yeah, I hope so. They're doing it with they're doing it with a whole bunch of the different sets. So a lot of the elite options for both the Rebellion and the Galactic Empire are also being reboxed and stuff as well. So you'll be able to get scouts and stuff for the stormtroopers, and you're kind of like behind enemy lines, saboteurs and things for your
but not
rebels.
Pathfinders, because they've all been taken out and shot. They've got away. Did you see there's a petition to replace the Emperor? Did you know the Emperor's been removed?
Really?
Oh, the Emperor and the Imperial Guard have been removed from Star Wars Legion.
Oh.
They just went, no, none of that. Lucasfilm has not cleared them to use the Emperor in the game about the Empire.
Wow.
So somebody started a petition.
You know what it is? We need a new pope at the moment. So I guess maybe they're looking for a new emperor. So we just need to watch the chimneys off the Death Star to see what
whether there's
colour comes out.
white smoke out of the exhaust port, or if the entire thing explodes.
Yeah.
If it explodes, they've got to have a new conclave. I tell you what, the marketing for the conclave this season has been insane.
It really has,
Anywho, well, it'll be interesting to see where Legion goes.
More Star Wars is always good.
Yes,
So,
especially now they're starting to replace the PVC stuff with the hard plastics.
Nice plastics. Yeah.
Sweet plastics like candy. Right, speaking of sweet plastics, sweet like candy, it was the 250th anniversary of the shot heard around the world, as they call it in France. Possibly. No, the shot heard around the world was the first shots being fired in the American War of Independence, aka the Revolutionary War, aka the day of unchecked colonial aggression. And to that end, Wargames Atlantic have announced a couple of sets coming for a new range called the Age of Reason. So here we see some delightful box art from Peter Dennis Esquire of Minutemen.
Very nice.
If you fancy, one lantern by land and two by sea, isn't that it? Go all Paul Revere. Then you can look forward to a host of stuff coming for the American War of Independence.
Or National Treasure, you mean? That's what you,
If you say so.
I want a Nicolas Cage.
The sets themselves are going to be available from the 5th of May.
Yep.
I'm going to say in a high questioning voice. Pre-order will be coming soon, if they're not already up by the time you see this. So I want to say this is a new frame size as well. In the interview next week with Charlie, we talk about this. They've gone from half frames and full frames to adding another frame size so that they can do more stuff differently. Anyway, that aside, the sets will contain 6 sprues, so 30 figures per box. This is your Minutemen militia, so the rump of the colonial forces on the ground. So you'll see a variety of hats, mismatched sort of outfits to give you that militia feel, which means they'll also be very good for other North American style engagements. If you want to go north of the border, play some sort of Canadian stuff as well. Outside of the American War of Independence, then you can do that. And they are forming a sort of a rough firing line. So you've got them loading, firing, carrying. They're a bit more, not massively dynamic because, it's not a Mel Gibson movie, but they are moving into position to fire, but not the steadied, serried ranks that you would see in a fully professional unit. So these are quite cute indeed. There's also the 5th Regiment of Foot, specifically the Grenadiers from the 5th Regiment of Foot. There is a reason it's specifically the Grenadiers, and that reason is their delightful bearskin mitre hats. As you can see there, looking very nice. Each Grenadier has to kill an entire bear and hollow it out himself to get that bearskin. I assume that's how they get the job in question. Again, another 5-man set with a variety of heads and then the relevant uniform. Obviously, for button counters out there, they've been going through this set with a fine-tooth comb trying to find issues with it. My favorite is the packs. I do agree with the fella. I don't think the straps came across the packs. They generally went underneath, but these are plastic. And if that's a major issue for you, your knife and milliput is your friend to flatten that off.
Yeah, very true.
And if it's not an issue for you, just tear on regardless. I have seen some people complaining that there weren't light infantry heads on the sprue as well. I think Hudson's answered that one, but if he hasn't, I will. They're not the same uniform. That's why light infantry heads aren't on there. The waistcoat is different and the lacing's different on the shoulders as well. For your feathering. So, catch yourselves on. Also, the coat's shorter. So, uniforms aren't the same. That's why the light infantry aren't on there.
Maybe there'll be another plastic set.
There is. There's going to be several sets. They're aiming at the initial sort of forces that were at Lexington, Concord, and the
Battle of Bunker Hill
as well. So the initial engagements from the AWI, which is why it's specifically listed, I think, as the 5th Regiment of Foot in the grand scheme of things, with the mitre caps shield Yeah, I can't see enough detail on those. If you want to change them to other ranking regiments, you can. Mm-hmm. If you want to really go the whole hog, the reason I know about the uniforms is I used to paint Irish colour parties of the British Army from this period. Miniatures weren't available. So what we used to do at the Toy Soldier Museum of Belfast was to carve off the fronts, and then I would repaint them with the relevant shield plates or the like on the miters.
Yeah.
Most of them were horses. Some of them were king or crowned lions. One was a Pegasus, which I think was possibly a Welsh. Anyway, matters not. It says 5th. You can use them for others. So yes, there's an interesting little start coming. It'll be fascinating to see what else they do. Presumably, over the coming weeks/months, the Age of Reason set will expand. Cavalry will be good. Obviously, the Continental Army is going to be nailed on, because why would they not do one? Artillery. We've not seen an artillery set in plastic from Wargames Atlantic yet for historical. There have been obviously
we've seen the big guns for sci-fi.
Big guns, which means they are more than capable of doing them. They just haven't got round to it yet for anybody. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do there. They have said that Wargames Digital will not be doing anything, because I know some people have gone, are you going to be doing anything in Wargames Digital for this? It's like, no, it will all be plastics.
Very nice.
So yes.
Makes Jerry happy.
No ones and zeros. We don't need ones and zeros.
More plastic sets for Jerry to review to stick on the Wargames Atlantic website.
Yes, I'm running behind. They're starting to snowball here. If I don't pick up the pace soon, I'm just going to be absolutely crushed under the weight of boxes. Yes, crushed under the weight of my own hubris. Yes. Keep an eye out for those. Like I say, 5th of May. If you fancy doing some American War of Independence, or if you want to push them further north and get started into French and Indian wars, that sort of thing, they are also doable for that as well.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very good.
Another blast from the past, but not historical, Ben.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit in the past when Seb Games were previewing what they were planning for this range, but they've now fully released the starter set for Urban War and their sort of relaunch of the game for a 3rd edition of the rules. So this is a new sort of boxed set that you can snap up, which comes with 2 balanced factions for you to start playing the game with. Inside, you're going to get the miniatures for both the Viridians and the Junkers. So you get some very awesome models based on the older sculpts, as well as some new ones as well, including those special characters, as you can see there. So leading the Viridians, you've got Major Lillian Ironburn, who's looking particularly awesome in her powered suit there, which is very nice. All the miniatures for both of the factions are done in COcast. So it's the material that a lot of people have seen before. Just means they can sort of pump out these starter sets very, very easily, which is always nice to see. You could go down the route of picking the Viridians, who are kind of a vast commercial style empire within the world of urban war. They prefer heavy firepower to eliminate their enemies from afar, because you have to send back messages to the home planet telling people that lots of people have died. Suddenly stocks start to fall. So if they can fire and forget, that's what they'd prefer to do.
I like it. We lose money if people die. Let's not lose money.
Yeah, it's the great leveler. So as well as Major Lillian Ironburn and the Viridian Colonial Marines in there, you will also get a HMG Colonial Marine as well. Not pictured here, but you also get that one as kind of like an elite option to add to the set. Going up against them, however, you have the Junkers. They are led by Decurion Drusus. So the Junker Empire is brutal and ruthless. Mostly their armies are packed with convicts that have been forced to head to the battlefield, and that comes through in their legionnaires that you can get your
Every
hands
man's
on.
a volunteer.
So
they could volunteer, or they could be executed.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it makes sense to me.
Technically, you do still have the choice.
Yeah. As it stands, you've got the Viridians, who are very much kind of like long range, take out your enemies from afar. Let's not get too close. Don't want to die. Don't want to lose that kit, of course. That costs a pretty penny. On the other side, you have the Junkers, who have those massive shields and badass shotguns. So they are walking right up to your face and blowing it off with some very cool miniatures, as you can see there. Really like the kind of sci-fi gladiator feel that you get around the Junkers, which is a really interesting sort of way to take the faction.
Getting a Judge Dredd feel.
Oh, yes, definitely. There's some really nice aesthetics across the different factions for Urban War. If it's a sci-fi game you've not really looked at before, I would definitely go and have a look because there's some really cool ideas that they came up with for the various factions. They're also backed up by a Lancer, who is an additional elite option for the Junker side of this box set as well. To cap things off, when it comes to miniatures, there is also a special miniature that comes in the set, which is the Triad Mercenaries. You can see there, again, talking about the kind of wild variety when it comes to the design of the factions. And obviously the Triad Mercenary, being a mercenary, could fight for either side, so you can use it as part of the scenarios that you get in the star box as you learn to play, which is really cool. And talking of learning to play, there is a full rulebook in there, which is a softback rulebook, alongside counter sheets, a terrain sheet for setting up your first games, quick reference sheets, of which there are 2.
Good.
Thank God, because you can give one to each player. I don't know how many times I have to say it.
I don't know why quick reference sheets aren't standard.
Yes.
In every game.
My God. Yes.
The amount of games I come across that don't even have one. I'm just like, why would you release a game without a QRS? Don't
just rely on the community to do your QRSs. So, yeah. There's also a couple of dice in there as well, as you might imagine. But a lot of people have dice lying around for you to start playing the games with. But a really nice selection of options there when it comes to the starter set. It's out there in the wild, so you can get your hands on it right now. As I said, it's definitely worth having a look a little bit more of the Urban War range from Seb Games, because they have some absolutely stunning options in there. And all of the old miniatures are still perfectly viable with the new edition as well. So they took all of the old stuff and have basically just been reissuing it out as new sets. You can buy lots of individual army packs and all that kind of thing as well. So if you're not taken by the Viridians or the Junkers, maybe one of the other factions will take your fancy.
Very dare you. I will say, for a long time, I used to run Junkers, and I would also run them in Necromunda via the medium of this team. Let me just pull up my gladiators. Sweet, sweet gladiators, which I can't show you because they're in a case in the loft currently. But they are, if you're looking for a Goliath faction, for Necromunda, it was a bit different back in the day. There you go. And that gives you an idea of what they do if they don't go to the front line. It's like, you just go to the fighting pit, son, and if you're very lucky, you'll get out. So those are technically veterans. They can play them in Urban War, send them forward. They
got a lot of thumbs up from
very close range. But the flames, oh Lord, the flames. He's a beast of a miniature as well. I really like him.
When someone in a sci-fi game is running towards you with a massive sword, you know they're probably quite hard.
Yeah.
It's very much come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Yeah,
exactly.
But no, definitely Urban War's one to check out. We should have a look at it in a bit more detail. Maybe I'll do that.
I think we have the starter set in the studio. So
I thought that as well, and then I couldn't see it, and I was going, is it a fever dream? But I've been having a lot of those recently where I'm going, have I seen this, or do I just spend too much time looking at models on the internet? Yes, if we have it, I'll have a look, and possibly even force Shay to play on camera. You have to pick one though, Shay. What do you want to be, Viridian or Junkers?
So I have to choose one or get executed. Okay,
pretty much, yeah.
I like the Viridians.
Do you? That's good. It means I can run the gladiators against you as well.
There you go. I was like nostalgia for you.
Yeah, it will be so much.
Can I just not deploy anybody on the board and just have your artillery strike for 5 minutes?
That is how Major Lillian would probably do it. Yeah.
That's how just clean them off altogether.
Yeah.
Right. Enough of that news. Let's take a look. Some 3D printing. Okay, then, this week, 3D printing come courtesy of Dino and Dog and Ben. Ben. Ben.
What have I done now? Yeah. Okay, right. So, normally when we're looking at 3D printing stuff, we end up looking at something that's specifically tied to a particular genre. So, we look at some historical bits and pieces or sci-fi or fantasy and that kind of thing. But I was recently watching a video with James May from his channel, of Top Gear fame and all that kind of thing. And one of the questions he got asked is, what's your favorite dinosaur? And that woke something in me once again. And I was like, you know what I really want? miniature dinosaurs. And rather than going to the Early Learning Center, if that still exists, and raiding their collection of dinosaurs, which I'm pretty sure are about 28 mil. Anyway, that's a shower thought for later.
I'll throw this one out there for the Early Learning Center dinosaurs now, because it also covers Schleck and people like that who do it.
Yeah.
Their models are made to a size, which means some of them will be 28 mil, some of them will be much bigger than 28 mil, and some will be much smaller because they're not scaled to each other. They're scaled
Early
across
Learning Center.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you'll get like a pterodactyl that is the same size as a brontosaurus, which is the same size as a wingspan.
Yes.
Anyway, regardless. So yes, bring a 28 mil figure with you in your pocket is what we're saying.
Then walk around
and then
comparing it. Yes,
compare it to your dinosaur of choice.
But yes, as it's probably fairly hard to do that nowadays because I'm fairly sure those shops are few and far between. I went online and I found Dino and Dog, as Jerry was talking about earlier. So this is by an individual called Nicola, who has a really fascinating collection. Now, as the name might suggest, they do also do dogs. And while I really like dogs, dinosaurs are cooler. And so we're going to be looking specifically at the dinosaurs to begin with anyway.
Depends which dog.
That is true. It does depend which dog. But they have been working for quite a while on a really nice selection of dinosaurs. And also other prehistoric creatures, so stuff that would easily fit into the likes of the Stone Age and all that kind of thing as well. And as I was looking through this, I was very much reminded of how badass this period of like prehistory is and the creatures that were existed at this time. They are so wild and weird in most cases that they would be perfectly suitable for sci-fi games and and fantasy games and all that kind of thing. Yes. And then you'll actually find that a lot of monsters from like D&D and that kind of thing are often inspired by stuff that existed back then and have now been sort of like changed and
I'll go one step further. As far as D&D goes, I think it's the Rust Monster. You knew the Rust Monster? It's like a big
armor.
It's got a big like moth antlers and big shelled back. Apparently the only reason that exists is Gary Gygax bought a pack of like soft plastic Early Learning Center dinosaurs. Oh, there was a range of them. And so he bought those, added them to D&D, and the Rust Monster was something that existed in that range. It actually never existed in the historic record. It was just something that one of the designers, but it's made its way into D&D
out
of the historical record. They went, this is utter garbage. That never existed, and yet it lives on in the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Brilliant.
Which is a bit like Dino and Dog, which we're here at. We should open some things. I'll just start opening random things.
Just open random dinosaurs because all dinosaurs are badass.
Yes.
So they have a nice selection of dinosaurs in the collection that are kind of the majority of them are scientifically accurate. So they're matched to the way that scientists particularly believe that dinosaurs would have looked. So that means that some of them have got feathers and all that kind of thing as well. As more and more dinosaurs seem to be getting nowadays. But then a lot of them are scaled to 32 millimeter as well. So they are absolutely nailed on for doing proper wargaming with these. And if you're looking to build a fantasy army with a really different twist, then these are absolutely brilliant for that, because you could use them in, the likes of Age of Fantasy by one-page rules. Maybe you're building an army for Dragon Rampant or something like that, and you want to have some badass dinosaurs in.
Maybe you're playing Conan and need a massive murder bird.
Exactly. This is what I was going to... Sword and sorcery is in my head at the moment, and it lives in a small corner of my brain just shouting Crom. And so when I was looking at a lot of the artwork from Conan and that kind of, that ilk of sword and sorcery films, but also like the the classic fantasy films of the 60s and 70s, a lot of the creatures that they used in those based on dinosaurs or had a dinosaur look to them. They might necessarily have been particularly accurate, but dinosaurs were as big a thrill as they should be nowadays as well. And so getting some of these, especially in some of the really nice dynamic poses, I think will be a really awesome collection of stuff for you to start painting. And it'll be something that'll be a little bit different as well, because, you get dragons and all that kind of stuff and all the other bits and pieces. But why wouldn't you want a freaking mammoth, man?
Exactly.
Like a herd of mammoths being chased down by badass Stone Age people and playing Flint and Feather with it or something. I don't know.
Don't need a herd,
So,
just need 3, because 3 is the cap for Kings of War ogre armies in
There you
2,000
go.
points.
there you go.
Just upgrade one of them. Thank you, Jesse, for Strider, by the way. God rest you.
And I would suggest that a fair amount of these miniatures look like they've got some pretty cool mounting positions if you wanted to put people on the back of them as well.
You mean between
I'm just saying.
Could you do the Ice Age in 7 TV?
Oh my
Do the
god,
cat.
yes. That would be so good.
What you want is one of them standing off to one side, and you just like cut the top half of a human off and the bottom half of like the tiger legs, whatever, and stick it on as if he's wearing the suit and he's just taking the top off for a coffee,
having a cigarette break by the side of the stage.
smoking a pancake.
But yeah, I think one of the things that really got me about these, I mean, obviously it was really nice to find something that were in that kind of wargaming scale of 32 mil, but it was the dynamism of the sculpts and how they've been posed that I think really works, because you get a lot of dinosaur miniatures that are in kind of like museum pose, like T-Rex standing with arms up, roaring kind of thing. Whereas actually having something like that where T-Rex is actually chasing something through a jungle or whatever, I think is a really, really nice touch. And as I say, these guys have been going for a while now, so getting your hands on these is going to be fairly easy enough. Printing them off should be a doddle. Also, because it's 3D printing files, there's no reason why you can't rescale these as well. So obviously they have been designed for 32 mil, but if you want to make them bigger, turn them into a showpiece or something, you've got that option. Or if you wanted to make them slightly smaller as well, that you could also do that. Maybe you may putting together something in 15 mil, for example. You could easily get away with something. Or 10s. Do that. Or 10s.
Yeah.
So
you wouldn't need to go too much smaller anyway if you're looking for a monster. They just need to be able to fit on like a 40 mil square for fantastic battles or grand battle scale or whatever it happens to be.
And what's quite nice about what Dino and Dog and Nicola have done is that the collection is fairly broad. They've got quite a nice section of different things in here. So you've got your kind of classic dinosaurs in there, like your Triceratopses, your Stegosauruses, your T-Rexes and all that kind of thing, your Brontosaurus and stuff. But then you've also got a lot of the prehistoric animals in there as well, and some of the smaller, weirder dinosaurs that maybe wouldn't necessarily have popped up in your
weirder
mind.
Dinosaur?
Oh my god!
Like an alligator-headed thing.
Yes. Oh, oh my god! I'm starting to remember Baryonyx. I'm starting to remember my dinosaur comics. Or no, not what there were dinosaur magazines back in the day. You know when you get the glow in the dark dinosaur with the skin around it. Yeah. I remember an issue about this one, and it's sort of like swimming through the water and then jumping out and like dragging a dinosaur into the water and all that kind of thing. Oh my god, the art in those magazines was amazing.
Well,
God, I love dinosaurs.
Here's what I've seen recently on the subject of Baryonyx and Tyrannosaurus Rex. Somebody pointing out the fact that, you know, they've got very small front arms, obviously huge tails and massive legs. What if they hopped like kangaroos? How much more terrifying would that be? Boingy, boingy, boingy.
I'd be terrified.
Yeah,
you would be.
You definitely hear it coming. It would do more than shake the glass of water, wouldn't it? Yeah.
You spilled my pint.
Yeah.
Bloody T-Rex.
I'll have you. Actually, no. What's quite nice about it as well is you've got like all the detail work that they've managed to work into the skin and everything, as you can see there. So you can have a really nice time. Just, I would imagine dry brushing and sponge painting a lot of these would work really well to get across that kind of mottled look to their skin and all that kind of thing.
Or go the whole hog with patternation, sort of lizard patternation or snaky patternation on the backs of them.
And there's plenty of companies that do stencils and things for creatures that you could like. What's his name?
Anarchy Models.
Anarchy Models.
I've got a load of them
really
sitting behind me. Fallout Hobbies stencils in the US as well.
Really nice selection of stuff. Now, this is all very cool. Obviously, you've got lots of dinosaurs. Sure. I've mentioned a couple of different games that you could potentially play with this. But then I thought to myself, but wait, what about if we wanted to do Jurassic Park? Of course. The most.
Weirdly, somebody in our community is painting Jurassic Park board game at the moment.
Is it the unmatched stuff, maybe?
It might be, because they did the T-Rex midweek, and then as we're filming this morning, they put up one of the doctors whose names I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I was like, well, we need some miniatures for that. There is a company that does them. So I found some on Etsy. So this is from Pop Mini. So they do slightly more cartoony looking characters for you to use.
That's the one they did.
Ellie?
Sure.
Yes.
But they do versions of the different characters that you could drop into your games, as I say, with a slightly more comic look, but that sort of fits quite nicely anyway with the kind of pulpy games that people will probably be wanting to play.
Especially 7 TV.
7 TV, for example, yeah. And also you get a raptor. Why would you not want a raptor?
Clever girl.
Clever girl. So yeah, some really nice options there. Although, of course, there's loads of Lost World.
Nedry.
Dennis Nedry, yes.
See,
yes,
I remember the name.
Yeah. Man, I really want to watch Jurassic Park now. God.
We can watch Samuel L. Jackson getting killed up.
Yeah. Please. Anyway.
And there's the fly.
There's also loads of pulp sort of action kind of characters you can get from the likes of Antediluvian. They do a really nice range of kind of like Lost World explorers.
They do Peter Cushing and Doug McClure.
And Lucid Eye also do some stuff in their Savage Core range, which would be very good for this kind of thing if you want to do that kind of Lost World film book thing rather than doing sort of Jurassic Park. But then I was like, maybe someone's made some rules. And as a little sneaky indie to sneak into the end.
Oh, I love you.
I found Clonosaurus, the miniatures game. Now, I've not looked too deeply at this because I found it literally this morning, but it's a full set of rules for playing your actual Jurassic Park style adventures on the tabletop. There are 4 factions, I think, that you can choose from of kind of humans. And you can play as kind of like researchers, hunters, paleontologists, that kind of thing, all trying to either survive or kill dinosaurs and take their DNA and all that kind of stuff. But then they've also got, obviously, rules for playing with a variety of different dinosaurs. They've got miniatures for a bunch of the dinosaurs as well. So if you don't want to get the stuff from Dino and Dog, which is amazing anyway, you can go and get some stuff from them as well. And they've done like Hollywood-style dinosaurs, so ones based on the movies. They've done scientifically accurate ones. And all that kind of thing as well. And as you can see, they perfectly match the kind of style of the dinos from the movies. So that kind of classic look of the velociraptors, when they're sneaking around in the kitchen, hunting down the kids and stuff. Oh, very good. Yeah.
Sweet.
And you've got the spitty one and all that kind of stuff as well. Oh, so good. So good.
So Hollywood classic dinos.
Yeah.
Scientifically accurate dinos.
Yes. And then Pop Cultosaurus minis as well. So some of the ones that kind of like popped up in pop culture a lot more as well, which is cool. And they're coming soon as well. You can get the rules. They've also done, I think it's like standees or like free to print stuff as well. So you can get your hands on those. So you can set up your teams and start playing games with them. But of course, you could just go out and grab any kind of like modern military miniatures from Spectre, perhaps, drop them onto the tabletop and have like a cool badass Spec Ops team having to go into Isla Nubla or something to try and hunt down a particular dinosaur and things like that.
See, Stripey.
There you go. Yeah. Gameplay is really fun from what I had a look at from like a cursory glance of it as well. Some really nice rules that they've put together for it. So
I think we may have to revisit this one for a proper deep dive into this.
Yeah.
I know. Cool terrain and everything as well. So you can set up a really awesome tabletop. You can do the big gates. Oh my God. Why would you not want to?
Look, that's where Samuel L. Jackson dies.
Yeah. But essentially, what I'm spoilers for Jurassic Park. Spoilers for Jurassic Park. Don't watch the new ones. There you go. But yeah, if you are interested in dinosaurs, and why would you not be? Have a look at Dino and Dog. Get some 3D printing files. Get downloading. Start painting something wildly different from what you've probably done before.
Yes.
You can add some really badass, mythical yet real creatures into your games. Have some fun with that. And then maybe, just maybe, go and explore either something like The Lost World or Jurassic Park and try out Clonosaurus as well, which we will come back to.
Not to be confused with Trachosaurus. Oh, we will come back to that. Because I think I can download that PDF via the medium of Wargame Vault.
The things that you find when you type in
dinosaurs
stuff on Google. So, yeah.
Cracking stuff.
Yeah.
I think we shall have a swish and return for some more news.
Even more news, bitches.
All right then, more news. So much news, can't fit into one news anymore. Have to go 2 newses.
News
Double
2.
news. News 2. Electric Boogaloo.
The news in haikus. No, we're not
News
doing
is so good. Why didn't it get a sequel? Well, here we are.
Speaking of sequels, the Wadrun, the Scions are coming for gods what were thought to be dead, but apparently in the sequel they are not. like most Marvel superhero villains, they are, not quite as dead as we thought.
Like the Emperor, somehow they survived.
Somehow they survived, unless it's in Star Wars Legion, in which case he didn't. Didn't even survive in his initial film. So for the Wadrun then, for Conquest, are their lizardy, orky style of faction. They are known to have escaped / been released on the world to protect the spires when they looked like they were about to take a shoeing. However, they escaped with gods, and they knew their gods were real because they were fighting alongside them.
Hey, however, I can see you.
Several of them died in the encounter. Of the 4 gods, only Conquest / War got away. Death and famine and others went the way of the dodo. However, now there's mutterings that they are not quite as dead. They have decided that their gods are coming back and they should be ready for them. And so some Scions have appeared. So the Wadrun society is broken up into cults, and different cults worship different facets or aspects of the gods that they follow. And even though their gods may have been dead, they still exist within society to some extent or another. And it's featured in their gameplay as well. So the Wadrun sort of have a chanting force, a resource that they manage during the game, and the chants then allow them to do various things depending on who's involved. And to that end, the cult of War is getting a new chunky artisan series figure. So these are the big resin beasts. And as you can see, he is absolutely enormous.
He's giving me Scorn vibes, from Hordes.
Yeah. Yes.
If that armor was red.
He's got, as somebody pointed out, he needs more pieces of flair. He has a certain amount of flair. The fact they've all got little knobbles on the end is a bit of a shame, because I imagine in many respects if they were just sharpened, you could do a lot of damage just charging through the lines.
Yeah.
So Scions are essentially priests of a cult that have got sufficiently high enough to intervene directly or change the direction of the cult's movements, momentum, their outlook on life. Think of them as the sort of battle popes of the Wadrun.
And take steroids, apparently. Look at the size of them arms. Jesus.
Oh, when it comes to war, they very much 100% lean into the, not quite the roid rage-ness of it all, but certain genetic manipulation done by the spires. Sort of tailor them to one aspect of their gods or another. And in this case, he is an absolute brute. We don't know how he's going to be playing in the not too distant future. But we will come to the Chosen in a moment, which might give us a slight idea of how they play, because it sort of leans into their style. Another artisan series, Wadrun, is the Scion of Death. So one of the female Wadrun with a absolutely massive bouffant on her head, flipping out like a ninja. So as somebody once said to Harrison Ford, Beauty and the Beast, she's both. Kick assassin. And with the artisan series stuff with the resins, they can get some really fine details in there that you wouldn't see on the plastics. Even though the plastics are coming along in leaps and bounds.
She's got like
the series are really cool.
A Predator vibe to her. I think it's kind of badass. I think it might be the headdress style. I think
the fact that the front of the face is covered and there's massive dreadlocks at the back.
Yes,
the fact
that also helps. Yeah,
that she's killing everybody in her way. Either is acceptable. So these are obviously painters' pieces that can be used in game as well. Most of the time with the artisan series, there's also a plastic equivalent for just gamers. So I imagine we'll see more of these
more will be coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, in the not too distant future. The Wadrun have got a few new bits and pieces recently. Obviously, the Uroni are the big new shiny, beautiful thing for their newest faction, but the other factions are still being well supported. The Chosen of Conquest are another plastic unit that's coming, and these are brutal and brutal deluxe. Now, we do know how the rules are working for these. So, as you may imagine, a boatload of wounds and attacks with cleave with Unstoppable, so they reroll field charges. So chances are they're getting into combat, and when they get into combat, they also then have the potential to do impact hits on your opponent, so they will really hand out a ton of fun.
Makes sense.
And as I mentioned earlier with the chantings, if they get into combat and have the chant up on them, then they get a bonus cleave. So they will absolutely devastate people by going right through their armor, ignoring their shields or bastion abilities. So armors were just, they've got no shield. They're doing additional impact hits. Conquest will absolutely roll face. So if that's the way Conquest is going, then the likes of the Scion of War and Death, they will have similar abilities and attributes when it comes to buffing the relevant cults in question.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
The
very nice minis as well.
Absolutely.
I really like the Woodrune, and not just because they are orcs mounted on dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs forever.
Dinosaurs forever. But I like the way their society has been built. So Conquest survived famine, death, and war. Technically died, I think it was the four gods they had, and they have this really interesting, not feudal system, but clan system tied to those cults, which impact gameplay, but then also their geographic location. They live in like a little tropical oasis, Lost Valley, full of dinosaurs, but not all of them, because there wasn't enough room. And eventually some of the high-ranking members being told by the surviving god, Conquest, was like, if you all stay here, you all die. There's not enough resources. So you go away. I just sent a load of them out to start wandering, which is why the Woodrune have started going to other places. Because
rampaging around killing people. Yeah.
When your god tells you to up sticks and find somewhere where there's more things to eat, you will do this thing. And if it means you become a desert nomad tribe, then you become a desert nomad tribe. Or if you cross a mountain ridge and say hello to the humans in the 100 Kingdoms, then you cross that ridge. It's really nice looking stuff for the Woodrune. And I really need to get that army finished so I can take them out and face plant Shay.
More dinosaurs.
How dare you?
Yeah, well,
I can't face against the dinosaurs. I like dinosaurs.
I mean, if you want to take the dinosaurs, I'll let you take the dinosaurs and I'll play the spires.
I'll say.
I'm easy either way. I've got armies to face off against you with, and I'm just working on a Quetzalcoatl at the moment, because dropping rocks on your head from the sky is fun. Anyway, shifting away from the fantasy and into the fantastical, never-ending adventure that is Rome. 2,777 years old last week.
Wow.
It was its birthday and you all forgot. You didn't even send a card.
Wow.
Did
Sorry,
you?
Rome.
I did. I sent it to the Pope, but
God.
Didn't arrive in time.
Didn't arrive in time. Shame. There are new conquests for Rome to take care of via the medium of the Conquest of the East coming for Hail Caesar soon. So a big bucket load of scenarios covering the Mithridatic War, singular. I know they say there's three, and the reason they say there's three, and I'm not arguing with you, Ben, because you did put it in your article, you say there's three. Historians have decided there are three.
Oh, okay.
And what do historians know? The fact that they've broken the wars up. There was one war. Rome declared one. The Senate declared a single war until the Senate says the war's over or until he was dead. And he didn't die until the end. So there was one war. And then Roman historians came in and went, you know what? What if we just break this into three for book sales? Probably. Big history. Trying to get all of the
we need a trilogy.
Yeah, we need a trilogy.
Yeah.
It's like Hobbit. They took the Hobbit, the Mithridatic War, and they went, we need to make this into three films, whereas one would have done. Anyway, it covers fighting in the Western Asian sort of peninsula and around the Hellespont, so into Turkey, Cappadocia, places like that. It all kicked off when the delightful Mithridates VI decided he wasn't happy with the Roman expansion into neighboring kingdoms that were removing the effect of his rule. So while Rome were punching face in Italy against some upstarts there, he went in and removed a Senate-approved king from a neighbor. And that's how this started. And for 20-ish years, he gave them a fair run for their money, which is why you've got a whole Galvey bucket load of stuff coming that way. It will be accompanied by a variety of miniatures as well. So if you want to have things like some of the commanders from the First and Second War, it's because they sent different generals, didn't make it a different war. You've got the likes of Lucius Cornelius and Solid Gaius. Not the best, obviously. We'll get to them in time. These are going to be the Warlord Resiny types. Mithridates the Sixth, Return of the Utapor.
Return of the King.
I'm not a fan of this model.
I don't like his head.
You don't like his head. I don't like his hands. He has Popeye-like arms.
Yeah.
Look how narrow that arm is coming out of the shoulder. Now, I know obviously cloth can expand and billow, but he just looks disproportionately weird.
I like the artwork's really awesome for him, and I kind of wish that they'd done the kind of lion helm over the back. I think that would have been really cool.
You wish he looked like this with arms that are a similar size from top to bottom, and I would concur.
It seems odd. I don't know if it's like an older model or something, maybe.
I don't know.
His head just looks a bit odd, but
he just looks. He's an odd bod,
especially since he's like the focal character of the book as well.
Yeah,
bit weird.
I'm sure you'll be able to lay your hands on somebody suitable to do the do in his.
I'm
place
sure there's a
anyway.
Mithridates around there somewhere.
Yeah.
So.
The most important one we've not really seen so far, which is Gnaeus Pompey Magnus.
Oh.
Pompey the Great. He was the leader of the Roman forces in charge, officer commanding at the end of the war. You may know him as friend of Caesar / enemy of Caesar, depending on at what point you join the story. So yeah, I'm assuming there's already a Pompey model out there. Probably is. Pompey the Great was so great, he's still remembered on the south coast of England to this day. He's the favourite Roman general of all time, so much so that thousands gathered together at Fratton Park on a regular basis to shout, "Play up Pompey." So just goes to show how much of an impact he has had.
I will say that Julius, who will become Caesar, is the special miniature for the book as well. So you get a young version of him, which is kind of cool.
Early day officer Julius. / political type. Couple of armies are also going to be available. So Marius's Mules, the codified Marian Reformed Republican Romans. Gotta love them. It will come as a mix in the box, obviously, between your Romans, your Celt Cav, and that sort of thing, because he'd done away with the noble Cav at this stage. He went, rich Romans, if you want to fight
too much,
you get in and you fight with everybody else on the ground. And the idea that you're going to run around the place as some sort of elite cavalry can jog on, son. Obviously, Scorpion in there as well as an onager. So you've got a bit of punch with artillery of a certain
type.
Something
for those sieges in the book.
Yeah. And slingers, because everybody likes a bit of lead shot to the head. Well, I say everybody.
They're
not
deadly.
the people being hit by it, but it's a good way to go.
That's no problem.
So it's a relatively substantial starting force for the Romans if you don't already have it. For the glory of Pontus, though, much more mixed affair, which is befitting considering his forces were sort of drawn from a whole host of places. So you've got sort of Macedonian nut phalangites. You've got your Sarmatian cataphracts. You've got like Celtic infantry. It's drawn from all points of his conglomeration of empires. We'll put it like that. So if you fancy something a bit more diverse than painting all of the Roman red all of the time, because nobody wants to get madder all over them, then I think Pontus is the way to go, and a different complexion of a force as well.
Serried ranks of spears, and then the disorganized Gallic warriors as well alongside them.
Not saying they go in first, but
they go in first.
They go in first. Oh, what's the meme? Good old hoplite phalanx. Nothing beats that. Cut to Roman. I bet they're going to use the phalanx again. Poor dumb Greeks. Yeah. Interesting stuff. The book, I think, more than the miniatures, interests me. I did see somebody pointing out it'd be nice at some point that they stop with Rome, because there were other countries fighting other countries that didn't involve Rome at all.
True.
And it's a valid point, but I do think we know that period because of Rome.
And the book is called Hail Caesar. So.
Well, I'm less worried about the Hail Caesar part. Caesar can render onto himself whatever he wants. But yeah, there were so many big campaigns, empire building, whereas a lot of the other sort of conquests tended to be more short affairs, I think is not an accurate way of putting it, but you're not going to get as much meat on the bone. But I do think having some sort of, go to Persia, do a lot of the empire building there.
Bit of a city-states conflict between the Greeks would be good as well. So,
yeah. Well,
they've probably done a bit of that already.
You've got a bit of that already, and it's all relatively confined. I think possibly the fact that the Greeks and Greeks just look like the same armies fighting each other in different colours. It may be the reason they haven't gone for that. But Greek and Persia.
But then they can phalanx all they like. They can phalanx all day.
All day long. I have no problem with that at all. Love my Greeks. They're great. Anyway, so yeah, watch out for that one coming. It's one of those ones that sort of, it gets overshadowed by the likes of some of the more famous Roman encounters. So, the Punic Wars and the like get all the glory, or Mr. Trajan and his column get a lot of love for what is rendered there. But yeah, the fact that there's 20-ish years of the singular war, there's a lot to be doing. Anyway, final bit of news for this week comes courtesy of Mantic and an announcement.
Yeah, so not too many details on this one at the moment, but they teased a couple of months ago that Mantic were going to be working on an Assassin's Creed game alongside the folks at Ubisoft. And now we've got a few more details about what they're planning to do with this. So the game is going to be called Assassin's Creed Animus. It will still be a board game in the style of what they've been doing previously with the likes of Hellboy and Worms and the Umbrella Academy and things like that. So it'll be within that vein. It won't be a war game or anything in that ilk. Will be playable with between 2 and 4 players.
Words are hard today, aren't they?
Yes, they really are.
Yeah.
And games will take between 40 and 90 minutes, depending on how many players you've got at the tabletop. They've kind of dropped a few little hints and stuff. So because we're seeing 4 different assassins from 4 different time periods, I would imagine we're going to be drawing from the entire selection of characters for you to use in your games. So you'll have all the famous ones popping up, including Ivor and that kind of thing, sitting on the tabletop, which is all good.
Ezio
Auditore, the best of them all. And I will
cut
hear
his
nothing
finger
else.
off.
Baba de Boopy. They have talked about the fact that they're going to really try and nail on the feel of each of the assassins. So they're all going to have an asymmetrical element to them. So they'll all play in very different ways. Which kind of fits, obviously, with the way that they're kind of taking all the different characters from various time periods. They'll say that there will be a lot of scenarios set up for the game where you'll have your own personal objectives, but you'll also then have to... So you're all going to be focusing on trying to achieve that, but also stopping the other assassins from doing their objectives at the same time, which will be intriguing. Kind of puts me in mind of the multiplayer from Assassin's Creed 2, I think it was, where they did that kind of thing, where you could sort of have assassins trying to assassinate targets at the same time and all that kind of thing. It's a really interesting way of playing the game. We do know, I think we've mentioned this before, that the guys from Caesar Inc. are kind of involved in the design and development of this game as well, alongside the rest of the team from Mantic. So, they have some pretty darn good designer chops on them. So whatever they do with this, I'm sure it's going to be very cool. And even though we're only seeing 4 of the assassins represented there as part of the initial previews, I would guess that they're probably going to do all the other ones as well. So we'll have Kenway and stuff like that popping up on the tabletop for some practical antics and everything else in between. At the
Tabletop mixer? Oh, that's Kenwood. Oh, never mind. Different.
So keep an eye out for... Or is it Kenway? Edward Kenway. I think
Edward Kenway. I'm picturing his special ability is just Man of War.
Yes.
Everybody else is like throwing knife, tomahawk. He's just like 700 cannons. Everyone dies. That's
jellyfish. Words are very hard.
So yes, keep an eye on this one. They have said that there's going to be more previews coming up in the next couple of months. I don't think it's going to be hitting Kickstarter until later in the year. So think sort of, I would imagine, like autumn time. I would guess for this one. So you've got plenty of time to be thinking about it ahead of that. And also, just as I say, keep an eye on the blog from Mantic, see what they're up to, because it'll be fun to see what the miniatures look like, if nothing else. Because I love the Mantic Games board game range. They're always lovely. So yeah.
I've seen somebody questioning what's going on with it, because there is a Assassin's Creed board game out there already.
Triton Noir?
Triton Noir, Correctamundo, mein Freund, Canadians. And I think they posited the question with, normally you only get one license for a game per company. That's not true. All you have to do is look at He-Man. Where licenses were handed out to 2 different companies on 2 different continents. But the thing about licensing is they are licensed for a specific thing. So it will be a license. Well, because I think Triton Noir still have the license for their version,
which is
but their version is a solo/cooperative game.
Yeah.
That covers whatever it covers. It goes all the way through to Tokyo, I think. Now, I've never played anything beyond the original Assassin's Creed, so I don't know where Tokyo comes in the timeline.
Quite literally now.
Fair enough. So there you go. So yes, they have a cooperative board game, which is narrative based.
So this one's versus.
This is a versus game.
It has 2 to 4 being the player numbers, so there's not just one in.
So I imagine a different style of game, and possibly again the license then is also for different. Although is Enrico Morricone, whoever his name is he the first assassin? Is that, I don't know. Sorry.
No, the first assassin is the name. I've completely forgotten now.
Right.
I don't remember.
Teddy Westside. Okay,
Westside.
So these are different ones from later games.
So you've got the one from the second game, which is also the setting of the Triton Noir game.
Right. Okay. Good.
And then there's Ivor there. There's Ivor from Valhalla, and there's the guy.
Tomahawk guy is Assassin's Creed 3. He's the Native American.
Yeah, the Native American guy.
Right. Okay. So there's overlap, but they do move beyond what Triton Noir covers, and then in a different style of game. So I think that's going to be key.
Altair. That's the first guy.
Sure. The game is a slightly different setting, but different adjunct game mechanics.
We couldn't be ours changing the blades. You're going to have to cut your finger off so you can use it. That's actually what they did, because the blades come out, so they had to cut their this finger off, so the blade can come out. Otherwise, it would just cut it off itself. So they're one of their rituals. They actually just chop one of the fingers off, and then the blade comes out. Somebody does inevitably fix it. I don't know why they didn't just do that from the start.
Yeah. So currently they've got Altair, Ezio, Connor, who's the Native American guy,
McGregor,
and Ivor. The female version of Ivor. I'm sure there'll be a variant, so you can have the male version of that character as well.
Okay.
But there's loads. There's Bayek, Cassandra, Dorian. Oh my God, there's so many. Basim, Yasuke. Jesus, yes, there's loads. They have infinite amount of time to expand this game. So Mantic have gone for a winner. So
we'll see how things go. The other thing about the Triton version is it is a campaign game. So you play it, and the boxes are not boxes. The cards for the campaign system are sealed. And as you play, you open it, take things out, and sticker stuff up. So theoretically, while you could potentially play it more than once, it's one and done. And I imagine that this is not going to be that.
No, I think I guess from what I remember of the Triton Noir game as well, you're not actually playing as Ezio. You're playing as assassins, and you make your own, don't you? Or like in a particular style, or do you actually play as Ezio?
The way it works is you play as certain assassins.
Okay.
If you die, because the game is about genetic memory and you reset.
Yeah.
So you do the mission once. If you do it, great. You get full campaign bonuses out of your little sealed envelope. If you die, you can replay the mission with a generic unnamed assassin, but you get less bonuses in your campaign if you succeed. And because you're not playing your named character, you don't get any of the experience that they get for completing that mission.
Interesting.
And then you play the next mission back with your named character again because they've been reset by that stage. So, like I say, the license will be based around the fact that it's a different style of game as well as sort of genre. So we'll see exactly.
Lots of Assassin's Creed fun on the tabletop to be had.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Enough news. We should take a swish and come back and round out the show. All right, then we have a couple of crowdfunders to polish off the show. And the first one we're going to be looking at is Lunar Wars from Telesis Games. This we had a look at a month ago or so, maybe, when the sort of the previews came out. Mm-hmm. It is a hard-ish sci-fi in the not too distant future, as mankind has set up a base on the moon to harvest the delightful helium-3, because people are really keen on having big party balloons. And
speaking of funny voices.
And there's not enough helium left on planet Earth for that. So it will be starting with two factions. The Roscosmos, who are not from Roscommon. I'm reliably informed by the creator. So he says. So they are up against the US Lunar Core. So the forces themselves have been set up in such a way that you have two very distinctive styles of gameplay on the tabletop. The game uses a variant of their Eagles of Empire Franco-Prussian rule set, which we've looked at as an indie in the past. So it has a sort of a real-time strategy feel. There will be objectives on the table, and by controlling those strategic objectives, you'll get sort of points to requisition more troops or to buy victory points for the game. So you could potentially go ham with the victory points and try and push for an early victory, but at the detriment that your opponent is dwindling your forces. Obviously, then when you're playing, that will have a key component of your strategy as to both your list, because you don't build in advance. You'll have a certain amount that will start the game, but then after that, you can start to requisition more troops. So, for example, if you want more Astro Marines, because they're relatively cheap and good at holding objectives, you can do that. But maybe your Roscosmos will want to bring in Spetsnaz, who have big 1950-style engines strapped to the back and are dropped in from like low orbit on top of your head.
Love it.
Of course they are.
Because they would be. I mean, why would they not be?
Just drop me on the enemy.
Yeah.
I killed them with gravity.
Not all may survive landing on the ground, but those who do will be very, very pissed off and wanting to press in there and do an absolute ton of damage very quickly. The game itself is divided into several phases. I go in fairly decent depth with Soren, the games designer, or one of them, in the interview that's coming next week. But there is a Song of Ice and Fire style political sort of sideboard, which sort of leans into the fact that the factions on the moon have very specific reasons for being there and a specific style of sort of force and command and control. So you have that style of thing as well. Within the actual gameplay, there's the Astro Marines, who are, like I say, part of the US Lunar Core. They're designed by Bob Naismith, and they're very sort of high tech. What are we doing in the world at the moment? There's a lot of drones, there's a lot of robot dogs and things like that kicking around. Therefore,
they're very sleek.
If you push this to the logical conclusion in 50 years' time, what would we be having on the moon? And it's that sort of upgraded firepower and technology, including the big Ares exoskeleton.
Cool.
Who's,
Why not?
you know, a beast of a thing.
I'm going to excavate your face.
He's
beam.
He is very much the Boston Dynamics. We need an exoskeleton for the moon, and they've gone, yes, boss. This is what happens when capitalism runs rampant and then explores the moon in some regard. So yeah, the best of the best in the best kit you can lay your hands on. There's even the Guardian Recon rover coming. If you want a space dune buggy, your lunar rover on the moon as a battle chariot, then you too can do that.
Yeah.
The Ross Cosmos, on the other hand, are what happens when you have to delve back into stockpiles of stuff from, you know, the 60s and 70s space program, and then just bolt armor and Kevlar to the outside of it. So they've got a very different look and also feel. They are not using the best of new tech. They are very much the tried and tested. If this will fire after being submerged in a boggy swamp for 20 years, then this gun will fire on the moon as well.
Makes sense.
And their armored suit is, you know, if we harvest the scrap of technology, then what can we bolt to this man?
Yeah.
So you get that.
I feel like the hazard stripes are unneeded.
I believe the hazard stripes are for the pilot.
Oh yeah,
it's just as brutal to the pilot as
don't
the
touch
enemy.
that. Don't hit that button.
If you touch any of these buttons, you will immediately die.
Don't step on any of this.
And if you don't immediately die, God bless you. It will be painful.
So the Ross Cosmos have been designed by Raphael Mikado. Possibly not how that name is pronounced, but you'll have to run with me on that. But yeah, interesting concept behind it. Like I say, there's starts with your governance phase, which is the sort of political side of things, and in that is the event card phase. So some people were asking when we looked at this previously, are there going to be mechanics for being on the moon? Because otherwise you're just playing a skirmish game with big chunky figures, because these are 45 mil.
Yes.
They are big figs. But then you're only playing with like squads of 3. So 3 to a squad, and maybe, you know, a handful of squads per side plus something chunky. So there are some mechanics in there baked into the core rules for being in 1/7 gravity. But then on top of that, you also have the event phase where potentially solar flare may hit, or a meteor strike, or whatever it happens to be coming down. So you have to deal with the hostile environment there. Then the command phase, that's where you're deciding whether or not you're going to spend your points on victory or men. And then after that, you plow into the actual tabletop side of things, where you know, maneuvering, firing, that sort. All D6 based, so not particularly tricky to navigate, and it uses the same style of unit as Eagles of Empire. So a full unit has, all unit types have a set number of die, and then when you're firing, for example, you would roll 3 dice for a Marine unit. However, the result needed to hit degrades as you lose squad members. So when you're firing at full strength, you may hit on 4s. When there's only 2 models left in the unit, you're hitting on 5s. And when there's a single model, you're hitting on 6s. But the dice never drop, just your target number, which means you can look down on the battlefield and very quickly see there's a full strength unit. I know what's coming from them. There's a unit that's been depleted. Yeah. I can possibly ignore them because they're not likely to do significant amount of damage to me. So tactically, it gives you a good idea of what you need to be doing for those initial governance phases and buying in troops. You know, if you look around the table and your opponent's got 3 squads that are all down to 1 man, maybe at that point buy the victory points, because the incoming fire isn't going to be sufficient to deal with you.
Just ping off your armor instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, the game itself, or the campaign itself, is there to fund the creation of the 2 starting factions and the rule set. There will be other factions coming down the line. There's 2 planned, which will be told to you next week when you watch the video. But there are some nice bits and pieces in there as well. So you can have your little political officers.
I really like the political side of it, and the
your
assassinations
politics.
and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. It's really neat. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, humanity has always strived for resources. That is, I mean, the fall of the Roman Empire wasn't because Rome got bored. It's because they ran out of the ability to govern such a large area and maintain the resources they needed to do so. Likewise, anytime an empire falls over, it's because they've ran into resource issues. And just think of the amount of war that we've had over resources up to and including today. So the fact that you have sitting on the moon an abundant supply of helium-3, which we don't have on Earth, it just shifts the conflict over there. This is, I think, the second Lunar War. He was saying the initial one was sort of a war by proxy in their backstory. So there's a substantial amount of other
storytelling
history
had already been done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
that leads into this. And then you can see, obviously, having taken that to the nth degree and then got Bob involved and went, Bob, do you want to sculpt
Bob
some
does
stuff for us?
amazing near future sci-fi
Yeah.
stuff, doesn't he? So,
That.
yeah.
The Guardian Rover is my favorite. It's the
so
ability to
cool.
just take your little dune buggy and then just do donuts around your opponent while firing into the side of their head.
Obviously.
It's what
Love
God wants us to do.
Yeah.
I will say the highly mirrored visor on them.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that look, and I've seen somebody do that with chrome paint,
Mhm.
like a really
that'd be a really
high,
nice way to do it.
high
Yeah.
chrome paint. And I'm thinking that might be the way, because otherwise you may end up having to paint faces and stuff with a visor over
Yeah.
the top, and I'm not doing that.
Oh,
if I
and
go-
it'll be really interesting. You'll be able to tell very quickly which side's which. I mean, obviously you can see that from the aesthetic a little bit anyway, but you've got the chrome helmets on the one side
And
and then
gold.
the sun visor look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that sort of metallic yellow on
It is.
the Roscosmos
cheaper look.
stuff.
From
yeah, the
Roscosmos.
cheap look.
I mean, they probably just
Yeah.
went in there with a Sharpie and just Sharpied over it.
Yeah.
This will keep the sun out, comrade.
I guess this will do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm
Just
interested
don't look
to
at
see,
sun.
When
Keep
you
sh-
see sun, close your eyes. You'll be fine.
keep your shadow in front of you at all times. Always keep the sun to your back, which we learned from Outlaw Juicy Whales is a valuable lesson in life anyway. So yeah, there are some exclusive parts for backers if they get in on the game early, and they have, like I say, plans to extend this beyond the initial two factions in the future. I really like the look of Lunar Wars. I like the fact also that while they have Eagles of Empire and the Franco-Prussian Wars is really solid system, they haven't just gone, well, we could take this and then do the American Civil War. You know, we take exactly the same rule set
really
and,
different
and
yeah.
just reskin it
Yeah.
to another conflict, 20,000 kilometers away, or whatever. No idea how far America is away.
some way away.
Some way away. Instead, they've gone, the system is really intriguing. There's some nice bits and pieces that will work regardless. And then if we take it to this near future setting, it has a completely different feel to it overall, while still being very approachable for gameplay purposes.
Yeah,
So, yes.
definitely. Very cool.
Not funded yet, but campaign's only just kicked off, so there's
Over a
still
month left.
30 odd days. I'm going to say 35.
35, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Well done, me. Days left on it. And like I say, if you want to know more from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, you can listen to Soren next week when I talk with him.
Yeah, very cool.
Right.
Mm.
And another war that's not near future, but
Yes.
a recent past.
So going from the moon to planet Earth, we are looking at a Kickstarter from the folks at War Fulcrum Games, who are looking to fund their rules and also a section of miniatures as well, but mostly the rules for 1918, a First World War miniatures war game. So 1918 is set during that kind of last year of the First World War, surrounding the German Spring Offensive. So this is when things are almost like the last-ditch attempt for the Germans to do what they wanted to do. as part of World War One. It also means you're going to be able to bring in the other nations as well. So you'll have the British and the French, as you might have imagined, but you'll also have the US, late as usual, on the tabletop, helping out.
Gonna do, boys.
Because this is also set towards the final period of World War One. This also means that you get to play around with a whole bunch of different kit as part of like a combined arms effort on the tabletop. So you get all of your infantry, as you might imagine. You have artillery, which is usually off board and sort of fires onto it. Mm-hmm. And then you also have vehicles in the mix. So this is the first time that we're seeing a lot of tanks being used en masse on battlefields, alongside aircraft coming in and supporting from the skies as well, which I think is a really nice touch.
Dropping darts on people's heads.
Dropping darts and bricks, all sorts of different things. This means that the kind of battlefields have evolved as well, so it's not just the trenches that would have played the part of like the sort of mid-period of World War One, and you can sort of come out of the trenches and start fighting once again in sort of woodlands, farmyards, urban environments, and all that kind of thing as well. They had a really nice board set up for this at Salute. Which we have some pictures of and stuff in the live blog if you want to go and check it out, which really showed off the kind of numbers of figures that you're going to get playing on the tabletop. So you can play. Most of your games take between 2 and 3 hours. You get about 30 to 60 figures aside. Obviously, maybe a few less if you're throwing in vehicles and all that kind of thing to kind of even things out. When it comes to the rules themselves, they've really tried to nail on the historical focus of this game. So it's all very much driven by what they've researched from museum pieces, as well as what they found online and all that kind of thing, and books and everything as well. So there's a real focus on kind of like command and control and the difficulties of that, because they really hone in on the idea that at this particular point there would have been a lot of junior officers fighting for both sides for all the nations, and they really had a bit of a challenge on their hands because they were, being pushed up through the ranks very, very quickly and having to control men who probably didn't give a shit about them and just wanted to survive. So you've got that element thrown into the mix, which is an interesting kind of chaos dynamic. They've also got in realistic suppression rules, so you can use things to kind of hold your enemy in place rather than necessarily just out and out killing them. Each of the factions has their own specific tactics, so there's an asymmetrical element to it as well. So the British will play differently from the French, from the US and the Germans, alongside army building rules that have been designed to fit the period as well. So you won't be building forces that will feel at odds to what you might have seen in books or what you might have seen on TV and things like that. So everything's been done to try and make it as plausible and as period accurate as they can do. Now, the rules themselves, they've been play tested for a little while already, but this is their kind of big chance for it to get it out to people and start playing the game. But the guys at War Fulcrum already have a Patreon where they have been working with the community to kind of bring this game to life. And as you can see here, they already have miniatures for the British and the Germans, all in 28mm, and you can get them as STL files. Download those and sort of get your army together very, very quickly. They have all your sort of core troops that you might imagine, alongside machine guns, artillery pieces, and everything else between as well. World War One isn't a period where you're going to be lacking in figures. There's also quite a lot of them out there from the likes of Wargames Atlantic and other companies in metal and plastic. But if you want to get the authentic stuff from War Fulcrum, then you can obviously go and do that. And if you're very much versed in 3D printing, that seems like a great way for you to go as well. In addition to the figures that they're doing for the various armies, they're also working on, they already have some terrain elements as well. So if you want to build up trench sections for your boards, you can get a really nice modular set for that, alongside a few other bits and pieces as well, like fortifications and things too. So they've really got a whole bunch of stuff already set up and ready for you to dive into and start playing their game. As I've said in the past, whenever we've discussed sort of like, 20th century warfare on the tabletop, I think a lot of the focus goes towards World War II. And World War One is by no means an uninteresting conflict. It is possibly even more interesting. And because it doesn't necessarily feature as much on TV or movies, I think it sort of isn't quite as popular quote unquote,
Yeah.
as World War II is in sort of Hollywood and things like that. So if you're looking for an interesting period of warfare where they're coming out of the kind of old style of fighting of the 1800s and into a very, very new modern way of fighting in the 20th century, I think World War I is something that you should definitely have a look at and see what you think. And as I say, these guys have been working on these rules for a little while now, and they've really put in the effort to make sure that it is both historically accurate and, most importantly, fun. There was a lot of people around their table at Salute having fun with it and being very excited about what they were doing. So, yeah, very good.
Oh, I know. That's why we never got to talk to them. Couldn't get near them.
Yeah.
Always the way.
Mm.
But yeah, fantastic stuff. Already funded.
Yep.
And you have but a few weeks left to get in there.
16 days.
16.
So.
Yeah. Right. Wrapped up for another week, I feel.
Yes.
We shall return away next Friday.
Mm.
But if that's too long, come and join us on Sunday over on Tabletop, where myself, Ben, and, don't know, might lure John in with a bit of apple on a string.
Or tank on a string.
A tank on a string.
Tank on a string would probably work better.
A gunplayer kit on a string.
Yes.
There you go.
So we can whit our way about our hobby and yours. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week for more of the same. Until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
No, not yet.
Who? What?
One last thing.
What?
One
Why?
last thing. I'm not letting you get away with this. I want you to tell me in the comments, what's your favorite dinosaur? Okay, now we can go.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.